This is lesson 5, solving multi-step equations. And there's not much new in today's lesson. Solving multi-step equations follows the same steps as solving one-step equations. So I'm just going to review them. Remember that when we're solving, we're doing the order of operations in reverse. And so we're always going to start outside of parentheses, and we're trying to move away all of the numbers that are near our missing variable. So whatever letter is in our equation, like n or x, we're trying to move all the numbers that are with that variable on the same side of the equal sign. And we do that by using inverse operations. So starting outside of parentheses, we remove any plus or minus, so like a +4 we would get rid of, or a -4 we would get rid of, by doing the opposite on both sides. So if you see a +4, you would do a -4. And if you see a -5, you would do a +5. After you've removed all the addition and subtraction near your variable, you're going to do the same thing by removing multiplication or division by doing the opposite to both sides. So if you see multiplication, you'll do division to get rid of that number. And if you see division, you'll do multiplication to get rid of that number. And then step 3 is removing exponents or roots. We're not going to get to that today, so I'll skip to step 4, which is repeat steps 1 to 3 inside parentheses. And again, today we won't see any parentheses in our problems, so really all we have to worry about today are steps 1 and 2, getting rid of any addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So let's start with example 1. We'll do something simple like 5x plus 2 equals 27. So here's my variable, and I'm trying to find the number that I can replace x with to make this equation true. So 5 times some number plus 2 has to equal 27. And I'm going to use a systematic approach, even though probably all of you watching this already know what x has to equal. But since our equations are going to get complicated, it's important that we have a system. So step 1 is to remove any addition or subtraction on the same side as our variable. So I see a +2, and the way to get rid of a +2 is with a -2. So if I subtract 2 from the left-hand side of the equal sign, I have to subtract 2 from the right-hand side of the equal sign to keep things balanced. And then I'm going to bring everything down. So the 5x comes straight down. +2 minus 2, if I have 2 good guys and 2 bad guys, they kill each other. They're all gone. And that's the whole purpose of subtracting 2. Bring down my equal sign, and 27 minus 2 is 25. There's no more addition or subtraction near my x. So the next step is to remove any multiplication or division. And hopefully you remember that 5x means 5 times x. And so the way to get rid of multiplication is to do division. That's the inverse operation. So I'm going to divide on both sides by 5. And it's really important that you use the fraction bar here to show division and not the division symbol. Whatever I do on the left-hand side of the equal sign, I must do on the right-hand side of the equal sign. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I'm left with 1x. And since 1x is the same thing as x, I'm going to leave that 1 off. Bring down the equal sign. 25 divided by 5 is 5. And that's my answer. So I'm going to check it just to prove to you that x does equal 5. I'm going to write down my original equation, 5x plus 2 equals 27. And I'm going to begin to replace the x with my answer, 5, and show you that the left-hand side of the equal sign is equal to the right-hand side of the equal sign. So I'm going to do 5 times 5 plus 2 equals 27, just replacing the x with 5. And then on the left-hand side, I'm going to simplify the expression using order of operations. So multiplication would come first here. And I'm going to bring everything else down, including the equal sign and the 27. There's nothing to simplify over here, so I'm just going to keep bringing that 27 down. And now I've got 25 plus 2. 25 plus 2 is 27. And since the left expression is equal to the right expression, I know I've done the problem correct. So let's look now at example 2. (16 equals -4x plus 6. So for this problem, I'm going to start outside parentheses. I don't have to worry about that because there are no parentheses. And I'm going to remove addition or subtraction by doing the opposite on both sides. So a couple things to be aware of here. This is not a -4. I want to be paying attention to the numbers that are on the same side of the equal sign as my variable, and that's a -4 and a 6. But again, this is not a -4. It's a times -4 because -4x means -4 times x. So multiplication is the operation I'm going to need to deal with here. But before I do that, I always start with addition or subtraction. And the way to get rid of a +6 is by doing the opposite or by doing -6. So I'm going to subtract 6 here from both sides of the equal sign. 16 minus 6 is 10. Bring down my equal sign. Bring down my -4 times x. 6 good guys and 6 bad guys disappear. So all I have to do now is remove multiplication or division, and I do have multiplication here to remove. And since this x is being multiplied by -4, I have to divide by -4. I'm doing the opposite. -4 divided by -4 is 1, and so I'm left with just 1x over here. And 10 divided by -4, I know I'm going to end up with a negative as my answer. And I also know that this does not work out to be a whole number, so I'm just going to treat it like a fraction and reduce it. And I know that both of these numbers are divisible by 2, so 10 divided by 2 is 5, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and my answer is a fraction. X equals -5/2. I'm not going to check this problem. I'm just in the interest of time. I'll check the next one. So we're going to move on now, get something darker here, to example 3. So example 3 is 1/2 n plus 3 equals 11. Same steps. I'm going to start by removing addition or subtraction on the same side as my variable. So here's my variable, and there's a +3 that I can deal with. And the way to get rid of a +3 is with a -3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Those cancel. I'm going to bring down my 1/2 n equals 11 minus 3 is 8. And then if you'll remember from our last lesson, 1/2 n is the same exact thing as 1n over 2. That n can just slide up to the top of the fraction. So I'm going to do that because it's going to make my problem a lot easier. And remember, 1n, I don't really need the 1. So I'm down to just a one-step equation. I'm going to remove the division, that fraction bar is just division, by multiplying on both sides by 2. And the way I'm going to show that is I'm going to put my multiplication dot. I'm multiplying by 2. And whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on the right. And then these 2's are going to cancel because if I take a variable, any number, and I divide it by 2 and then I multiply it by 2, I'm going to just end up with the number. Those cancel. Another way of thinking about it is that 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I'm left with 1n on the left, and 8 times 2 is 16. So that's it. I am going to show you how to do the check because sometimes with fractions we're nervous about checking. So I'm going to write down my original equation, 1/2 n plus 3 equals 11, and I'm just going to replace the n with 16. So I get 1/2 times 16 plus 3 equals 11. And remember that when we need to multiply a fraction by a whole number, it's often helpful to turn that whole number into a fraction. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this multiplication, but I'm hoping that many of you realize that 1/2 times 16 just means half of 16, which is 8. So this whole thing is going to equal 8, but I'll go ahead and show you how to work it out. I'm going to turn my 16 into a fraction by making it 16 over 1. And then to multiply fractions, you just multiply the top and you multiply the bottom. 1 times 16 is 16, and 2 times 1 is 2. Bring down my plus 3, bring down my equal sign, bring down the 11. And then I'm just using order of operations to simplify the left. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I'm going to bring everything else down. And I'm still simplifying the expression on the left, which is 11. Since the left-hand side and the right-hand side match, I know I've done it right. We're going to do one more example, another one with a fraction. Example 4. 2n over 5, take away 1 equals 3. So on the same side as my variable, I actually have 3 operations. I have a times 2, a divided by 5, and a minus 1. So I'm just going to go through the order of my steps and start by removing addition or subtraction. And the way to get rid of a minus 1 is a plus 1. And remember that whatever you do on the left-hand side of the equal sign, you have to do on the right-hand side of the equal sign to keep things balanced. So I'm just going to bring everything down. 2n over 5, that whole group, I'm just bringing it down. I haven't dealt with it yet. These disappear though, because one bad guy and one good guy kill each other. Bring down my equal sign, 3 plus 1 is 4. And so now I kind of have a choice because my next step is to remove multiplication or division. So I could deal with the 2 or the 5 at this point, but I'll tell you it will be a whole lot easier if you get rid of the fraction first. We don't like fractions and we would like to remove that divided by 5. So I'll go ahead and do that first. And the way to remove a divided by 5 is by multiplying by 5 on both sides of the equal sign. Just like in our last example, these 5s are going to cancel. When you have the same number on the top as you do on the bottom of a fraction, they equal 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. But this 2n is still there. So when I bring everything down, I have to bring down the 2n and the equal sign, and I'll go ahead and do 4 times 5, which is 20. And now all we have left is to remove that multiplication. Remember, 2n means 2 times n. So since n is being multiplied by 2, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. These 2's are going to cancel because 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So I'm left with 1n equals 10. And I'm going to check this one very fast because we're almost out of time. 2n over 5 minus 1 equals 3. I'm just going to replace the n with 10. And I'm going to use order of operations to simplify this expression. So 2 times 10 is 20. I'm going to do that division. 20 divided by 5 is 4. And finally, I'm going to do that subtraction. And since the expression on the left is equal to the expression on the right, I know it's correct. That's how to solve multi-step equations.